Of the 21 main quests in Tears of the Kingdom, Regional Phenomena is by far the longest and biggest one that you can complete without beating the game, and I want to talk about it. I've already made videos on the temples and stages alone, so I won't be going into detail and talk about those parts of the quest, and will instead be focusing on the quest before the temples. With that out of the way, let's begin. Starting off strong is the Tulin of Rito Village questline, which focuses on the regional phenomena in Hebra. The quest begins by finding out that Rito Village has become completely overtaken by a dangerous blizzard, which is causing all types of problems for the area. In terms of atmosphere, this is definitely my favorite questline in the game. Seeing Rito Village as isolated and barren as it is really intriguing. Many of the businesses are being temporarily run by the children since the parents are off scavenging for food, and things in general are looking really dire. This is a massive step up from the Divine Beast Valmedo questline, which wasn't really a threat, it was kind of just there. The people of Rito Village are sort of just annoyed at Valmedo and Breath of the Wild, and there isn't much of a crisis like there is in Rito Village now. The quest continues when you find Teba arguing with Tulin about the blizzard. Tulin thinks he's capable of stopping the blizzard, and Teba doesn't, so Tulin completely disregards everything Teba said and runs away. You then have to get information from the other Ritos as to where Tulin is, and they're, I guess, helpful? I don't know. I didn't really enjoy going place after place in an effort to search for Tulin, since I don't find chasing someone over a long period of time very interesting. It wasn't bad or anything, just not very fun. After long enough though, you'll eventually find Tulin with his boat taken by an Arikata. So I guess Teba was right. I love Tulin as much as the next guy, but it's crazy to believe he thought he could take the blizzard down on his own when he can't even take down an Arikata, the easiest enemy in the game. Come on Tulin, get real. After you take down a few more enemies with Tulin, he immediately sees the value of teamwork now and understands why Teba had no faith in him. And in his defense, if I lost a 1v1 to an Arikata, I would come to the same conclusion. After all of this, the player and Tulin ascend to the skies together and gradually make their way closer to the Wind Temple. This is one of my favorite sequences in the entire game. Gradually going higher into the air and beginning to lose sight of the outside world was nothing but awesome. And then this part in the end where you break through the clouds and see the world clear as day is an amazing moment. All in all, this is definitely the most epic regional phenomena quest simply because of how high the stakes feel. It feels far more important than the other regional phenomena quests, at least to me. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and let's talk about the next quest. Yunobo of Goron City begins by meeting Yunobo, who's just as good a character as ever. Even under the influence of an evil mask, Yunobo refuses the urge to be a likable character, which takes a lot of dedication. I had my confusion with Princess Zelda throughout the game, but this questline is what confirmed to me that this wasn't actually Princess Zelda, because there's no reasonable explanation for why Zelda would be turning Yunobo evil. I had found a few side quests related to Zelda which didn't make much sense, but there was never really confirmation to me that it wasn't Zelda. The best part about this side quest is that the entire town becomes addicted to marbled rock roast. Many of the workers have become too lazy to work and would rather eat this drug instead of maintain the city, which isn't really a looming threat of any sort, but it's a lot funnier than any of the other quests. There isn't as much of a problem with the area itself, and more so the problem is that the Gorons aren't the smartest of people in Hyrule. After seeing the state of Goron City, and seeing that Yunobo is evidently more confident than he deserves to be, the player is told to go over to Yunobo HQ, where you end up fighting this corrupted version of Yunobo. And there really isn't anything to say about this boss fight. This is definitely one of the least interesting boss fights in the game, and yeah, there's not much to it. Yunobo unfortunately returns back to normal, and decides to join the player along the ride for Zelda. And now the player has to go up to Death Mountain, and although it isn't an amazing part of the game, it's a lot more fun than the Death Mountain climb in Breath of the Wild, which is one of the lowest points in that entire game. And then yet another boss appears for the questline, Moragia, who's also pretty uninteresting as a boss. Moragia is a great way for the player to utilize Yunobo's bomb ability and the wing device, but the fight itself was pretty bland. After defeating this boss, you enter Death Mountain and reach the Fire Temple. So that's where we leave off Yunobo of Goron City. Definitely not the most climactic of quests in the game, but it was definitely the funniest. Sidon of the Zora is the next regional phenomena quest, and this one is a lot more interesting. The quest starts with Link discovering Zora's domain has been completely polluted by sludge throughout the entire area, which isn't great considering the Zora are literal fish people. In the middle of Zora's domain, Link encounters Yona, Sidon's wife, and all I'm gonna say is that Sidon must have had better options. I mean, come on. My favorite line in the entire game comes from this quest line when Yona says, "I am Prince Sidon's, oh, forgive me, I am your best friend's fiancé." Later in the quest, you need to find King Dorephan based on a nursery rhyme from a few of the Zora children and obtain a few scales, which you then use to shoot through this little droplet after deciphering yet another riddle. The puzzles for this quest line are great and made me like this one a lot. The previous quests we've talked about didn't really focus on any puzzle solving and told the player exactly what to do, whereas this quest line I actually had to think about where to go next. It's pretty obvious what the floating island in the shape of the fish was, but it was still fun to find out regardless. Shooting the scale through the droplet is one of the most beautiful moments in the entire game. It was a really clever puzzle that wasn't too difficult. When you talk to Sidon after shooting through the droplet, this new boss appears, sludge-like. Similar to Yunobo, this boss was uninteresting and there isn't much to say. It's exactly like a regular like, but with more health. After defeating the sludge-like, Sidon insists that he should stay with Yona instead of Link, but after Yona reminds Sidon that he's a baller, Sidon immediately realizes that he should help Link. This was honestly a really unnecessary moment, and I have no idea why it was included in the game. After Sidon gets that incredible pep talk and joins Link, the player ends up discovering the Zora Waterworks, which is an amazing area. There's nothing interesting in terms of gameplay for this area, but something about the Zora Waterworks is just so awesome. After finishing the Zora Waterworks, the player moves their way higher and higher into the sky, similar to the questline with Tulin, except this time it has this awesome low gravity instead of the player using big boats. I've mentioned this before, but the low gravity is a lot of fun and made this part of the quest way better. Although I'm not a fan of the bubbles, they're pretty gimmicky and weird, and I have no idea why they base an entire shrine around them. After moving up in the sky a little bit, the player eventually reaches the water temple, and that's where this questline concludes. This is an unpopular opinion, but the Zora questline was my favorite regional phenomena questline in the entire game. I enjoyed the puzzle solving and the atmosphere so much, and I think it made for an amazing journey. The final regional phenomena in the game is Riju of Gerudo Town. The quest starts with the majority of Gerudo Desert being shrouded in a cloud of dust and sand, which is surprisingly similar to the Gerudo quest from Breath of the Wild, but this time it's much more extreme. Gerudo Town is in complete ruin and the Gerudo people are hiding in order to survive. As much as the game wants me to feel bad about this, Gerudo Town being completely destroyed is a complete win in my eyes, and it's actually a huge disappointment that it gets fixed later in the quest. Later in the quest, Gibdos begin to invade Gerudo Town in order to search for the people and kill them, and Link is given the misfortune of being put as the main protector of the town. Apparently you can organize the defenses and the troops, but I didn't do this at all and it still went perfectly well for me, so I guess that aspect doesn't matter at all. The Gibdo invasion is a cool concept, but fighting Gibdos isn't fun, and never will be. After beating the Gibdos, the player is given an odd riddle regarding the Pillars of Light. I understood what the pillars were, and I thought I knew what to do, but a lot of this part of the game was really confusing, and after about an hour of trying and failing, I eventually looked up what to do, which as we all know is an illegal move in the eyes of gamers. Seriously, I've never struggled with a Zelda puzzle as much as this one, and I feel like it shouldn't have confused me at all, since Tears of the Kingdom isn't particularly known for its difficult puzzles. After solving the Pillars of Light puzzle, you open the gateway for the Lightning Temple. But just before the temple, the player runs into Queen Gibdo. For a little bit it looks like you've beaten her, but she takes a maneuver developed by Mucktorok called Running Away. And that's where this regional phenomena ends. Definitely the least interesting one, at least for me. I feel like the stakes felt higher in the Hebra regional phenomena, the puzzles were better in the Lanayru one, and it was funnier in the Elden regional phenomena. The puzzles were definitely the best for the Lightning Temple, but as mentioned before, this video isn't about the temples, it's about everything before them. To conclude this video, Regional Phenomena is a really fun questline, and at the very least we can all agree they're better than the Divine Beasts.